All right. Good afternoon, everyone. This is session two for the Collab Innovation Conference. Super excited to welcome this panel. Sarah Wilkes, she began her professional journey as a graphic designer, honing her skills in creating visually compelling and user-friendly designs. Her career has evolved and transitioned as a business consultant, where she practices design thinking principles with numerous brands. Excited to welcome her. Gabriel. Gabriel and I met at Techstars, I think happy hour, right? In New York. Um, so Techstars was it's two panels in a row actually, where we have Techstars graduates. Gabriel is the founder and CEO of Vicino, uh, a pioneer in the flash mob logistics space, with a unique blend of creativity, resilience, and community-focused innovation. Vicino has reimagined logistics as a platform for authentic connections, turning routine deliveries into opportunities for storytelling and engagement. And Gabriel is based in New York. Uh, Sarah's Columbus, Ohio, but I believe you're in New York right now. I'm pretty
Yep.
sure, right?
Yep.
And Oksana is joining us from Boston, Massachusetts. Oksana is a strategic business and marketing executive with 20 years of experience, including global leadership roles within renowned advertising networks such as Publicis and WPP. Over the last decade, she has partnered with Fortune 500 companies, translating complex business strategies into seamless marketing execution and driving impactful, scalable outcomes. So thank you all for joining. Good morning.
Good morning.
So let's go ahead and cue it up to Gabriel. Gabriel, I guess what role, maybe you could tell us a little bit more about Flash, of what you're doing there at Vicino, and Flash Mob Logistics for anyone who's not really too deep in the logistics space. And what role does strategic problem solving play in fostering innovation across industry in the space?
Yeah, so first off, great to be here. I'll give you some quick context on Vicino. So basically, traditional last mile logistics is a pretty transactional business. You know, you pay for a shipment, something goes from some place to get to point A, from point A to point B. And it's usually been a cost center for most retail brands. And it's one of the reasons why we as consumers have to continue paying higher and higher costs. So what we do is we've created a different way to do logistics where we leverage local communities with a much lower cost structure. And then we use these local community members as almost like content creators that can help brands create awareness while they're out delivering. So the idea is that brands can leverage their logistics movements now, not only as a cost, not essentially transitioning from being a cost center to being a revenue generator. So that's really where the idea of flash mob comes in, because we have so many different people walking the streets of New York City, almost like a flash mob. And that's the idea behind the flash mob logistics. So to answer your question around
Love that.
strategic problem solving, so I think when it comes to at least the way that I innovate and the way that I brainstormed on this initial idea, a lot of innovation tends to be reactive, right? So a problem occurs and then you kind of innovate around that. And I think that strategic problem solving really falls into the realm of structuring creativity in a way that you can anticipate what's probably going to happen. And I think that comes from being able to be well in tune with your industry or multiple industries. I like to read a lot. I kind of stay aware of what's going on across different fields, and that helps me to innovate in anticipation of problems happening. It's what enabled us to create flash mob logistics. The traditional, I think, startup answer is, I lost this, so then I create a solution so that doesn't happen to other people. In this case, I didn't necessarily I didn't, think about flash mob logistics from the beginning. I just thought this is where the future is headed. Retailers need to find a new way to approach things. And I think that's where the problem solving in a strategic way is much more effective.
Love that approach. Super innovative. Super innovative. And anyone in the audience, feel free to drop questions. Happy to make this free flowing. Sarah, it would be helpful if the audience could learn a little bit more about yourself and how you use design thinking to empower entrepreneurs in their daily life.
I actually started as a graphic designer, and then I transitioned into UX and UI in software engineering. And so I've always had the customer and the end user in mind. And so gradually, right, as I work with a lot of small business owners who go from, maybe brick and mortar to digital application, um, really, how can they transition the way that they service their customers into digital products? And that's one of the things that I focus on the most. Again, the end user and the customer, how people see things, how they build the systems and the processes. That all has to do with design, not only making it simplistic for yourself as a administrator, as a CEO, but for the people receiving your services and or products. So what I do is I work with people from retail to fitness to even food service, right? Just designing those systems to make sure that they're effective and complementary to their mission.
Love that. And Oksana, I'm gonna come to you next. I guess following up on a little bit of what Sarah just said, what are some common barriers to innovation, and how can companies overcome them from what you've been seeing?
Yeah, thank you so much for having me here. So I think that the main barrier for the innovation is to notice disruption on time. And this is where I echo what Gabriel just said, that we need to understand what's happening. And once the company sees that something like stopped working or the numbers are slightly off and they don't understand why, this is where the strategy should come in. For instance, now we all have AI disrupting all the industries because like all the people are using it. I mean, not all, like 50% for now, but it's going to grow very rapidly. And what we need to check with the companies is if their business model relevant in the AI age. Because for instance, we have call centers and they are not relevant anymore. So this is the whole niche which are going to be eliminated fairly soon. And to notice this and to adapt on time and to build the narrative of relevancy and how the company brings value to the market, I think this is what is important. And when we talk about the global competition and global success, in addition to the business model relevance, we also need to think about the cultural relevance, because this is what, in the end, bottom line, defines if the company is successful on a certain market or in a certain region.
Love that. Love that. Love that. Gabriel, taking it back to you, I think it's really interesting what you're doing. Maybe it would be helpful for us to understand the customers that you're working with, right? So, is it something where a restaurant, are you working with restaurants, or I guess to understand what type of brand that you're working with a little bit more?
Yeah, so we focused on large enterprise, high volume retailers within footwear, apparel, cosmetics. So think of Converse, Nike, Sephora. Those are the kind of companies. We have some interesting projects we're working on now for 2025 with Converse and StockX and a few others. So the idea is that we focus with brands that want to so let me be clear on something. We're not trying to replace UPS or FedEx. We don't want to be the next large national shipping carrier. What we're trying to do is enable retailers to service this generation in a way that traditional shipping carriers will never enable them to do. So we want them to look at their millions of units of volume and say, okay, these are the hottest markets for us in the United States. These are the markets where culture and trends and most of our customers are based, and we want to allocate a portion of our volume within these markets to Vecino, so that way that volume can generate more revenue for us, can bring us more business. Because I think the problem within all, and this is so relevant to the conversation, I think the problem with all of the solutions created in logistics and marketing, or I mean, and manufacturing, all these things, is that everybody's trying to be the one size fits all solution, and that doesn't exist. Today, retailers, and I think this is relevant outside of my industry as well, you need an arsenal of solutions in order to support such a ever changing customer base like what we have today. This generation craves authenticity and changes their demands, on a frequent basis. So you do need your traditional volume carriers like a UPS and FedEx. You might need drone delivery. You might need all sorts of different ways of creating a customer experience. We just happen to be one of them. But we hope that we are the number one way that at least revenue comes back to brands. So that's essentially who we focus on. We don't do food delivery. We're not in the business of, 15-minute delivery of bananas. It's not our world. Our world is parcel delivery, a package delivery. We just change the entire customer experience around it, and then we use it as a way to help brands almost like tap into a new marketing channel.
I love that. I love that. So I guess, Sarah, what strategies do you recommend right now? And AI, we could enter AI into the conversation as well. But what strategies do you recommend for business leaders navigating, kind of the uncertainty right now, whether it could be, finding talent, customers, marketing. What are some strategies that you recommend going into 2025?
Well, first of all, learning ChatGPT. And you know why? Because it really has evolved from helping you solve broad problems to really niching down what exactly your problem is. If you understand how to prompt and you understand what exactly you need, so before you even get to ChatGPT, you need to sit with yourself and what I call make a list, right? The problem that you have and the solution that you think you need, right? So then when you go into ChatGPT and you begin to start broad, and then you say, okay, hey, Chat, I need to hire top talent that does this, but these are the things that I'm encountering when I am hiring. So either it's low transportation, right? So if you're a daycare center, right, you have a lot of young people, but they don't have transportation. Okay, so maybe it's even paying for the background checks, or maybe it's childcare for if you're in a field full of women, right, where you have mainly moms. So one, how can you attract and retain the talent? Two, how can you begin to combat some of those obstacles that the talent that you need is having? And so once you write that down and you brainstorm within yourself, you can go into chat, and then chat will actually create a prompt for you that will then ask questions, but you can also say, chat, pull it from reliable sources. Then you have to do a little bit more research, right? And read and take notes and kind of consult with yourself. So the thing is, I think just starting there, start with the openly, readily available tool. Even if you're just using the free version, it's enough to help your brain think and guide you in the right direction. And then from there, begin to look into other AI tools. But I would honestly start with chat because it's simple. Gemini is not bad either, but I think that they're no longer doing free trials. Claude is very limited. The information's good, but some of it is limited. So I think just you learning chat, watch YouTube, get with people like myself, and learning how to brainstorm and prompt.
Absolutely. Yeah, learning that's the best way to do it. And it's moving so fast. So, Oksana, how are you seeing AI in terms of adoption with the businesses that you're working with? And also, what lessons have you learned from helping businesses navigate disruption?
Yeah, so I think that the main lesson that I learned was that the business processes and having them properly built gains more and more importance, much more when you actually work just with humans. Because what's happening is when I lead businesses to scale, the idea of scaling only works as far as the business process is healthy. Because if the business process is not healthy, humans can fix it somehow. And if you scale with AI, the only thing that you can scale is chaos. So I think this is my main lesson on how to lead companies to scaling with AI. So when we talk about the automation and when we talk about AI-based automation, this is where we need, first of all, to understand what is the business model and what business process it relies on and consists from. And then only then, when we understand that everything is the way, like works the way we want it to work and there are no like bottlenecks or anything like that, then we can bring in AI, because otherwise we just break the system and AI like really scales this mess, and then humans need to fix it. So I think that make sure that everything works first, and only then automate, and then only then bring AI. And of course, to like education of the team, which works, new processes, new workflows, and having everyone on the same page. This is what is important. And also understanding how are we training our teams to actually work with AI agents, because the next year we're going to see much more of those. And we need to understand how to approach it from the human's perspective, with an understanding that an AI agent can work 24/7, makes less mistakes. So we need to understand how to manage expectation inside the team.
Got it. Yeah, no, that's maybe if you, for the audience perspective as well, can you give them a little bit of an idea in terms of the companies that you work with, size and number of employees, so they understand?
Yeah, so I think that for small businesses, depending on, so what I see on the market right now is that we have a lot of industry specific solutions where we have AI agents. So I think that sales and marketing probably is like the first discipline which embraced AI. And first of all, we're happy that now AI agents can do some sales work for us, but then everyone became bombarded by all those automated messages, and people understood that we ruined the trust, which is very human characteristics. And I think that what we're going to see is that we will see industry-based AI agent, maybe for for mid-sized businesses, because like for small-sized businesses, it will be just the same version, but just with limited capabilities. And of course, I think that the biggest challenge that we now see, will see the enterprises, because they have sometimes a lot of like duplicative functions just because of their scale. And having AI, like when AI takes on its shoulders some vertical or some type of work, this is where the companies would need to understand how to manage human resources.
Awesome. Awesome. And audience, again, if you have any questions, feel free to drop in. We only have 10 minutes left here. Gabriel, taking it back to you. Very interested in just, catching up in terms of how you're looking at 2025. Do you guys only operate in New York right now? Yeah, just wanted to see if are you also looking at any smaller markets? For example, I'm in Columbus, Ohio today. So, do you see opportunities in smaller markets?
Yeah, so right now we're only in New York City, and obviously New York City is one of the best places in the world to launch something like this, given that you've got 72,000 people per square mile, so it's a huge population and density is perfect. But our business is not unique to New York. We're designed for urban logistics. That's what it is. So we won't work in Nebraska, but we can work very well in the hubs around the world. So there are certain proprietary conditions that allow us to determine like what market works for us. So there's I would say about 40, maybe 45 markets across the US. When I say markets, I don't mean like a small zip, but I mean actual cities that I think work really well for us. And then we're developing other strategies that enable us to go to less dense markets outside of those 45 hubs and whatnot. So yeah, I mean, Columbus maybe is an option within, expansion over time. For 2025, our focus is New York City, covering Manhattan and the Brooklyn area. And then we'll be in the later half of 2025, we'll be expanding to Philadelphia and small pockets of Boston as well. Our plan is really, it's not really a secret in that sense. Our plan really is to grab small pockets of all the major hubs and then expand each of them once we're already all of them. So that way it allows us to become a national carrier faster than it would take if we tried to absorb all of New York City, one city at a time, you know? So that's really what our strategy is probably the next, I would say, 10 biggest hubs in small pieces and then expand outward from there.
Awesome. Looking forward to staying up to date. Think
Thank you.
what you're doing is pretty innovative. Um, Sarah, coming back to you, Sarah. What about you? What are you looking forward to most next year? And feel free to drop, any links, by the way, if you guys want to share with the chat how the best way they could get a hold of you.
Okay, so I'm just looking forward to when it comes to like designing and branding, really helping small businesses who still have big business problems build brands that are scalable, even if they're small, right? Just because you have a small business doesn't mean you have to just throw something together. And so there are a lot of AI tools now that are creating cookie cutter solutions that are allowing small business owners to build total foundation. So, for example, I have one of my clients. We launched a brand on Amazon, got from 7 followers to 1,000 followers on TikTok, and she made about 20 sales in a 3-month time period. And it was really a grind, but we used a lot of AI assistance, not doing ads and things like that, but just building a strong foundation from like the business planning to the marketing planning to actually consulting back and forth using my knowledge, putting together systems and processes and automated roadmaps. And it really was able for her to scale at a faster rate and for people to know her not just in Columbus, but we're known also in New York and we're known in places like Jersey and Texas and, just in a short amount of time. So, yeah.
So follow-up question. Someone in our network today, as you brought it up, but they're a designer and they reached out. One thing that Collab does is placement, matching. So they reached out and to see if there were any opportunities in their UI UX designer. And it got me thinking because, I never thought that this individual would ever reach out to me to ask for that. And to me, it made me think about AI. So I guess twofold question, would love to connect you with them if you're helping UI UX designers. But I guess what are you seeing in terms of AI disruption in this space?
Oh, I'm seeing a lot. So CanvaCon is coming up in 2025. I also want to tell people that because Canva has been at the head of like disruption. They're even trying to take on Adobe. The thing is, it's only as good as a designer as you. So you still need to you can go on LinkedIn and take all the foundational courses. Once you understand that, you'll be able to utilize the AI tools properly. I also help designers learn how to fast track their process because a lot of times when you use these AI, they are not adhering to intellectual property laws. Quick plug. I need y'all to know when you're using AI, they are not adhering to intellectual property laws. Your clients can get sued. That is a real thing. So you need to know what you're creating, what pieces to take, and how to even build certain websites and foundations just to make sure that you are in compliance with your state regulations in case your client is trying to trademark and scale a brand. So yeah, I'm seeing a lot, Manny. I mean, it's so much to go into from just the pictures to typography. It's getting a
Yeah.
lot better because we used to have like 5 fingers on one hand and 2 fingers on the other. It's really evolving. But use it as a tool, not as a crutch. So that's what I will say. Use it as a tool,
Yeah,
not a crutch.
and we have a question in here, and you kind of touched base, but Justin basically has asked Sarah and Oksana, how do you assist brands with really staying true to their identity and not relying too much on AI? So Oksana, any feedback on that?
Yeah, absolutely. So I think that AI, in my opinion, is a huge challenge for like humanity, for the responsibilities. I call it like a big responsibility challenge. So what I want to say is that what's important for brands moving forward is to keep their authenticity, and this is what only humans can do. And what we are talking about, how are we leveraging AI? AI is a tool meant to do what it does the best for now. is to remove the tactical, repetitive, exhaustive for humans types of work. So for instance, when you have one creative and you need to do all the resizes for all the huge media plan, and you need them tomorrow, and there are like 400 of those, this is where AI will do it very well. But when we are talking about keeping authenticity of the brand and leading the storytelling itself, this is pure human realm. And I think that we need to look at AI as a helper, not as a replacement. And this is the only thing which will keep the identity of the brands. And also, it's very important to manage reputation of the brand, because now a lot of actors on the market receive the access to content production. So what it means is that the environment is even more cluttered than it used to be. And that is why each brand needs to have a very strong storytelling and a very disciplined reputation management always on. So this is what keeps brand to preserve the identity.
Love that. I dropped a couple links, but Jay Ford asked in the chat, what are 2 or 3 AI tools that you all use to help with visual and market research? So anyone can feel free to answer that.
So I'm gonna be honest. I am a chat girly to the death of me. Why? Because I'm a prompt engineer. So if you're a prompt engineer, you know how to take the broad problems and really niche it down to get exactly what you need. And when you ask chat to give you scholastic resources, that's when you're able to pull, and then you can go through and use Claude to back that up. And then there was Poe. And by the time you use those 3, you should be good. And if you need to do something with Google, I say Gemini, but when I say I normally do all of my work in chat, I normally do all of my work in chat. The $20 version too. There's a difference.
Yeah, so on my end, I can recommend Perplexity AI. I know that they're turned into e-commerce, and this is Pandora box for many. But I mean, leaving that aside, I think that they're giving like a lot of structured answers, especially if you're doing research or anything like that. And the second recommendation, I think I would recommend probably to test, because like there are a lot of tools and they're appearing every day. So I think what's important is to choose the one which works and resonates with you, and then to start training the model. Because I mean, if you are staying with the model for, I don't know, 6 months, by the end of the 6 months, it's much more relevant to your questions than if you're starting like a new tool. So I think that it's choosing a tool first and then training to get, and specifically giving the response. So, okay, that response works for me, just to make sure that the model understands what are you looking for.
Awesome. Gabriel?
Yeah,
Any-
I'm not too complicated. I don't really get too deep into the different AI tools. I usually use ChatGPT for the paid version. I think it's incredibly helpful. I'm not as I have to be honest, not as advanced on using prompts and all that stuff. So it's already been incredibly helpful for me. I can only imagine if once I start putting some time to learn a little bit more about generating the right prompts and all that stuff, I think it might end up being even more valuable. But as of now, I use ChatGPT on a regular basis. It saved me months worth of research and back and forth, so pretty cool.
Love it. Love it. Well, thank you, Oksana, Gabriel, and Sarah for joining in and sharing advice for everyone. We'll have this on YouTube, and appreciate you all. Have a wonderful rest of your day.